Hello everyone, welcome. I'm kind of purple today. Welcome to SharePoint Power Hour. I'm Laura Rogers, and SharePoint Power Hour is our show that we do every Wednesday at 11 Central. SharePoint Power Hour is all about things that we can do in SharePoint, out of the box, no code, no dev, no server admin necessarily, just all kinds of topics that we talk about. Maybe I'll be able to change myself so I'm not purple. I've been messing with my webcam a little too much. But again, I'm Laura Rogers. I'm a Microsoft MVP. And I have Corey and Joelle here with me today. And we're going to be talking about all these announcements that were made last week about the future of SharePoint, all this very exciting stuff that's going on. And I'm going to get everybody involved and have like a whole chat and discussion and just get everybody's opinions, and I'll even demo some stuff. Of course, a lot of the stuff that they talked about isn't necessarily in the product yet, but we'll demo what we can. And so Corey and Joelle, I'll have you guys introduce yourselves first.
All right, so I'm Corey. I don't have a lower third on. I just realized that. I'm an out-of-the-box SharePoint guy. I've been doing SharePoint about 10 years. You guys have seen me on here before. Yeah, that's pretty much about it right now.
Hey guys, this is Joelle. I'm a SharePoint consultant with Co-Designed, an awesome SharePoint company here in Atlanta. I've also been working with SharePoint about 9-10 years now. And I was in a room with some folks at Co-Design watching the live feed last week, and there was a lot of excitement, a lot of like questions, a lot of that kind of thing. So I'm definitely anxious to talk about all those awesome announcements.
Yeah, cool. All right, so I was there in person. It was so cool. It was fun. So it was in San Francisco, and me and a bunch of other SharePoint MVPs got invited to go be there in person and live tweet and blog and all that stuff. And so yeah. Let's see. So what we're going to start off with first is just kind of some basics about how you can chat during this during Power Hour. We're using Slack, which is a fairly new technology that allows us to have just chat conversations going on. If you type a backslash in there, it gives you all these extra things that you can do in there, like if I type. Of course, you can't see my screen right now, but those of you who are in there, let's see, I'll type future, like future of SharePoint, and it shows me a robot, just a random GIF off the web. So that's just one of the fun things you can do in Slack. All right, so the link to join the Slack channel, it's IWMentor, that's my new company, .slack.com, and that's how you can get in once you've already requested to join it. You have to be invited though, so that's what I've been doing is I put a little form out there, and there's a link to the form in the description of this video in YouTube to be able to request to join, and then once you join, you just, every time we have a Power Hour, you just go to that. Now this is actually an app, so I highly recommend you guys install the app on your desktop, on your phones. It works with all platforms, and you can you can chat and have conversations. I set up a little bot so that it reminds us all half an hour before Power Hour starts and all this fun stuff. So I highly encourage you guys, especially in the whole point of today's conversation is going to be getting your opinions and discussing the future of SharePoint announcements. So everybody jump in there into the little, it's a hashtag Power Hour channel once you're in Slack, and jump into Power Hour and say hi. Everybody do that now. And then and just to make sure you're all ready, it says it's got 61 members, so it's jumped up by about 20 people since last time. Let's see. So, hey, okay, good to see everybody. Now I can even show. Let's see. I can even show this on my screen. Let's see. Watch that. There we go. Look how cool. So he just said hello. I'm peeking up over the top of it, and this is kind of, you guys can see this on my screen. Yeah, there we go. Cool. So this is a little software called XSplit Broadcaster that lets me show some app or something while I'm showing my video. So I'm just kind of ironing out the kinks with all this stuff. So everybody's saying hello in there. You can see it. So if you guys are sending in a request to be invited, kind of like while I'm talking, I have to go in there and invite you. So it might take a minute. But all right. So where in the world to even begin? All right, so the coolest thing about the announcements the other day were, of course, there were a million tweets. So if you're ever wondering kind of what we're even talking about, all you have to do is look for the hashtag Future SharePoint out on Twitter, and there are going to be all these links. There are links you can go watch it later. You can go watch the recording of it. So it's just the Future SharePoint event. So any of you can go watch that anytime if you kind of want to go catch up on what all was announced. Also, a whole flurry of blog posts came out by Microsoft around that same time, just giving details about everything that got announced. And I wrote a blog post as well, showing, I can hear somebody clicking around. I wrote a blog post as well, like describing, a lot of the things. They gave some of us advanced information so that we would have our blog posts ready. But the gist of it is that SharePoint is going to have a whole bunch of I think they're very exciting improvements. Sometimes when there are changes in SharePoint, we have a lot of differing opinions. Yeah, there were a lot of overwhelming tweets, Corey. I agree. It was just a flurry. It was just continuous stream. You could hardly even stop to read any of them. The main thing I took away, the main thing I got is that they're making SharePoint easier. SharePoint is just going to be easier just to understand. Like my mom could sit down at, in a SharePoint library and understand just how to put a file in there, how to edit the file, how to share the file, how to move the file around. And so some of this just basic stuff, I'm going to hide this little thing off the screen now. Some of this just basic bread and butter, file sharing, stuff like that people love to do in SharePoint, they improved upon that. So I thought that was huge that to make improvements instead of not necessarily adding new things, but just really improve upon the things that were already there. There's a new app, so now not only are you going to be able to it's going to be easier to work with your files in SharePoint in the browser, but there's going to be a SharePoint app that you can use that where you can have your SharePoint files wherever you go, and they also made a lot of the pages more responsive and friendly to different different browsers and different mobile devices and things like that, just if you're on the web on your SharePoint page. Another huge thing that, and we can kind of go through these methodically, but another huge takeaway that was one of my favorite things was this concept of office groups that they just introduced a couple of years ago. People had been kind of confused about when to use a group versus when to create a team site, and they wanted to be told what they're supposed to use. Are we supposed to always use groups from now on? Or team sites going away? Like, what is the deal? Tell us what to do. So they went ahead and just merged them together, and so they are going to be one thing. A team site and a SharePoint site and a group is just one thing that you create, and you don't have to decide between them. So that's really huge. Let's see. I see you guys like doing cute little Giphy comments in there. Yeah. All right. So does one of y'all want me to put you on the spot to kind of get your just overall gist of what you thought? Corey or Joelle, does one of you want to go first? No. Corey's shaking his head. No.
Well, I mean, echoing.
Oh, I'll mute myself.
Okay. One of the biggest takeaways for me was just how much they really have put into SharePoint for this next version. They were kind of letting it fall behind a little bit. SharePoint Online was progressing a little bit, but they're really kind of forgetting about on-prem servers. I'm really appreciating that they're taking the time and the resources to actually bring SharePoint, especially on premises, into the next version, to really make them into a seamless integration, feature-wise, looks-wise, and also that they're going to keep updating SharePoint on-prem with feature updates to actually keep it in parity with Office 365.
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah, all the on-prem people that were worried about SharePoint going away, don't worry about it. They said it's fine. Like they said, this isn't the last version of SharePoint. At some point, somebody had said that, and so people kind of went nuts over that. At some point, a couple years ago, somebody had said that. But no, it's not the last version of on-prem SharePoint. Joelle, I know you said you're multitasking today. You have an opinion?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I was really excited. It definitely sounds like they've been, listening. I think this is the first time I've seen a SharePoint release where I can see specific things that I know that I've seen on like the user voice and just discussed, at SharePoint Saturdays and stuff like that. So it's obvious that they're listening. I think I have some concerns just because I work on a lot of big projects and projects that involve, custom design and development and stuff like that. And I think there is some concern, especially around those types of things and with the whole feature pack idea. And I'm assuming that you probably can pick and choose what you do with that feature pack, or at least I would hope so. Like a cumulative update, you can choose whether or not to do it. But I just kind of, the whole downfall of Office 365 is that if you design something or develop something, then it could break very easily. And so I think a part of me just worries about that carrying over into on-prem, stuff. So it's just kind of like I'm really excited about it, and I think from like if you are a person who's going to Office 365 and you're new to SharePoint and you're just getting started, I think it's going to be an awesome experience. But I do kind of worry about some of those enterprise folks that have had these investments of like 10-year investments in SharePoint, and they have all this content and custom stuff. It's not going to be as easy to just go over to that WYSIWYG type thing that they're trying to push. So it'd be just interesting to see.
Yeah, on that same note, I'm really interested to see how the branding people take to this new version of SharePoint, and how that works with all the changes that they've been making.
Yeah, I mean, just from the page perspective, I don't know, and maybe Laura, maybe you got more insight into this, but just from watching, it's a lot of client-side stuff, and I'm just kind of wondering, are things like web part zones and page layouts and master pages, are like those even going to be things anymore? I mean, I know in some way they will be, but if you look at just the page editing mechanisms that they were showing, that's a lot of client-side stuff, which is fantastic because that's where it should be. I mean, .NET is, a thing of the past almost. We still do it, of course, but it's slowly kind of going away. So it is really, really cool, and it's definitely they're doing what they should do. I'm just kind of curious how that'll affect those designers.
Yeah, and I mean they're moving to a lot more of the client-side rendering, which is a good thing, but will make it much more interesting.
Yeah. I mean, in the long run, if you can get your SharePoint environment ready for that, I mean, that's going to save, like in the future, that'll save organizations a lot of money, because there are so many front-end developers that won't have to know SharePoint and will be able to do things. So that's definitely a positive aspect for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think Mark Anderson, and I hope that's who I'm saying his name right, but he wrote a awesome blog about that client side, because I think he definitely does a lot of that stuff and has for many years. And so he wrote a really, really cool blog that explained just exactly, what their vision is there. So it's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so anybody, you guys that are in I went ahead and let a few people in that were, trying to get invited into Slack. while they were talking. But you guys, so somebody asked, I can't pronounce your name, will that change the way we do permissions? It doesn't look like it. It looks like that's what's changing is that sort of end user interface. And it looks like kind of just all the settings and things are pretty much the same, like permissions inherently are the same. Also, we definitely gotta touch on Power Apps too while we're talking about all this stuff. Another thing that's another cool thing, the Power Apps and flows. They're continuously updating Power Apps. I know we did a SharePoint Power Hour about Power Apps a few months ago when it first came out, but even just since then, every time I go in there, there are some improvements in there, and then the flows as well. Flows is. It's not necessarily a direct replacement for SharePoint Designer workflows right now, but it's I think that's the goal. And it looks, if you've ever looked at that website called If This Then That, ifttt.com, it looks a lot like that. It's the same kind of concept where you can have all these different services sort of talking to each other. Like for my If This Then That, I can say, if I pull in the garage, and then open my garage door automatically and turn on the lights in the house, or if someone tweets my name, blink the light. Like you can have all these weird integrations with all these different services in your life with If This Then That. But the way that Microsoft is doing it, it's like a similar, like pretty end user interface to be able to create just very like simple logic to say, if I get an email that has this in it, then start this or send this other email or add an item to a SharePoint list or create a MailChimp campaign, or if this happens in Salesforce, then create an item in SharePoint. So the huge big difference between Flow and SharePoint Designer is just the easy integration of all these other services, which is really fun.
Well, I think part of that too is empowerment of the end user. Because, SharePoint Designer can be a very overwhelming experience to jump in there for the first time and go, because you can really break stuff in SharePoint Designer if you're not careful. So creating this flow process and, letting end users just toy around with it without the possibility of necessarily at least majorly breaking anything is great, because it frees up resources on the IT end, so they don't have to create all these workflows for people, especially the simpler ones. And at the same time, it gives end users the power to do what they want when they need to do it. Ooh, let's watch Laura log into Office 365.
Yeah. I'm playing around with that. Yeah. Well, let's try and make it so that I can talk and like. You could see my face and I can do my demo at the same time. So that was my goal, but we'll see. So kind of what I want to demo is, first of all, what's changed in document library. So they did mention that these changes that they made are going to be applicable to lists as well soon, I believe. That and the demo they did, I think it might have actually been on a list. I don't remember. It all just went by so fast. It was all just such a fast demo. But yeah, so it's in there for libraries right now, and I blogged about it a couple of weeks ago. So we'll go dig around in. Let's see. We'll go dig around in Office 365 and see if it'll let me. Oh, that's weird looking. Let's see. Yeah, R. Shire says May 4th was a bit overwhelming with so much information. Just curious how you three keep up processing it all, and if you get overwhelmed. Yes, we get overwhelmed. I get overwhelmed. So what overwhelms me is Power BI and how cool that is. I mean, that wasn't necessarily one of the things. One of the things that they announced the other day as I'm playing with my video as I'm talking. Power BI wasn't necessarily one of the big announcements and big changes, but that's one of those things that's just so awesome and can do so many things that it's overwhelming every time I start thinking about it, because I want to learn it and it's all very cool, but it's just so much. All right, let's see if this will work. I'm going to do this. Let's see. Oh, that is so fancy. Can you see that now? You can see my screen.
Yeah, it looks like you just overlaid.
I'm floating, ooh, in the corner. That's so cool. I'm having fun. All right, with my green screen. Okay,
Laura,
so
otherwise known as Clippy.
all right, so y'all can hear me and see me and everything. Okay. Cool. I don't have to use screen sharing. I can just flip back and forth. All right. So you're going to notice this if you're, especially if you're in your first release, if you're in the first release cycle in Office 365, that anytime you go to a library, you have this document libraries are getting a new look thing, and you can click check it out. And then, oh, and every time I click on something, is it going to make this thing appear? Let's see. Let me get rid of that. That is very odd looking. F5. So yeah, so the new look and this little screen sharing thing that I'm doing don't like each other too much. Let's see.
I was gonna say, is there a new dark theme for SharePoint?
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird because I'm like working with this site inside of this window, so it doesn't have like a back button or anything, so this might not work. I might have to just use screen sharing. But let me go back to my documents. No, it's very odd looking. Okay, well, I'm going to have to just do screen sharing, I think, unless that works. Well, the idea is that it's in a grid. Like it really looks a lot like just your OneDrive for, you know, the personal OneDrive that's been around for quite a while. So they just basically are making libraries so that they're more intuitive and they look more like a OneDrive. Now, it's got just basic, you don't have the ribbon anymore. You just have some basic things that you can do at the top, like, you know, put a file in there, upload, you know, create a new file from one of these types of files, or upload like you've always been able to do, or sync, which is OneDrive for, which is going to be the OneDrive for Business Client, or Alert Me, which is just regular old SharePoint alerts. And then these are your views over here. So remember a couple of versions ago in SharePoint, the views were up at the top right? Do y'all remember that? So the views are back up at the top right. So you can switch between this little list view and the grid view. Of course, the list view doesn't look that good in this little screen sharing thing. But that's where, so I was looking at this going, okay, well, how do you get to like the things that would be on the library tab? Well, you go to library settings up here in the gear. So now library settings and site settings are kind of right next to each other. And you also have all of your other libraries and things, like the stuff that's on the quick launch, it's over here. So it was a little awkward, like when you would go to your OneDrive for Business in Office 365, go to your OneDrive, and then this navigation was completely different than kind of the way navigation looked everywhere else. So they're making it more congruent and more smooth across, so you can quickly just see your other libraries you've been working in over here in your nav. And then the library settings are going to be the same. So yeah, they're my good old-fashioned library settings. So when it comes to the end user stuff, that's where there are a lot of changes. But as far as just the power user concepts, like settings and content types and just setting up a site, list and library settings, site settings, permissions, all that's pretty much the same. So what I did is on my iwmentor.com, my new company, my new training site, I went ahead and created a new class. It's going to be in October at some point. Just for Office 365 beginners. It's a beginner class, but it's all this new stuff. So create a beginner class just for pure Office 365 for all the new stuff. I used to be able to just have one class that just, you know, covered everything on-prem and Office 365 because there weren't that many drastic differences. I could just point out the little things as I went. But I went ahead and created a special new class, a beginner class for this new stuff. But the power user stuff's pretty much the same. So I haven't really felt the need yet to create a new power user class because the stuff the power user, just concepts that you go over as a power user, aren't that drastically different yet. So that's just kind of a real quick high-level overview of the library. Let me show you one more thing in the library. Let me see. See if it lets me go back a page. Where was I? the branding on this little site that I'm on is a little weird. I think that's one of the problems, is that just the way it looks. All right, so another thing you'll notice in here that they were sure to mention is this link thing. So this goes back to the whole concept of being able to make it easy to, just one of the things people want to do is not have to have copies of the same thing all in different places in SharePoint and just easily link it. Now, you've been able to do that before. It was quite a few clicks, right, guys? It was go to advanced settings, go to turn on content types, then go add a new content type and add the content type called link to a document, and then the end users would have to know to go click the document toolbar in the ribbon and go click link to a document. So it was possible to do a link to another document, right? It's just easier now. It's just going to be there. So you just say new link, and then look at that. It's even showing you recent things that you've worked with. Look how fast that was. Can I get a golf clap? Look how fast that was to just quickly create a link to something else, and then it shows it right there in the library. So let's see, another thing I'm going to go over. Any questions about libraries? Let's see, any comments? Dave says, I like the concept of putting more power into the end user's hands because they're ultimately the innovators. Concerned by the lack of a global taxonomy across groups, planners, sites, collections. Well, that's Dave, that's what they're addressing, because groups and sites are going to be the same thing. I agree with you on Planner, though. I'm not sure kind of how that fits in. I haven't really adopted Planner because just that concept kind of aggravated me, that they put it out there kind of just floating out there, not necessarily connected to anything else. But video was like that too, but video, they've actually integrated a whole bunch into SharePoint now in Office 365, so you can embed video, like for that Office 365 video thing, you can embed videos, and you can quickly put links to videos and or put them on your site, and there's a whole bunch of integration with that Office 365 video portal into SharePoint. So hopefully that kind of thing will come around with Planner as well, because Planners, it's a good concept. It's very pretty, but yeah. All right, so another thing they talked about, and let's see how well this one renders in on this little screen sharing thing. Not at all. There it goes. Is the new site editing concept in here. Basically, did y'all see that, the way there's a new way to edit pages to where it's not that old clunky interface with the web parts and the web part settings, and it's just old and hasn't changed at all over the years? Now there's going to be this new way of editing pages, and it's going to be mobile friendly and responsive and all that stuff. So let's see. I'm going to...
Laura, before you get too deep into that, Anne was asking about the pinning of documents.
Oh yeah.
At the top of the library.
Totally, I can do that. Let me go back somehow. This is fun. All right, it's just weird because there's no back button in here, so I just gotta figure out where I was. Maybe I can do Alt back arrow. Cradola. Oh, go to my most recent documents. So look at that. Maybe that's going to put me where I was. No. Did it? It brought it up in my other window here. That's really cool. What does see all do? Oh, okay. Maybe if I click legal. No, it keeps bringing it up in my other window. Let me just share my screen because it's prettier that way. So I'm just going to do a screen share in here. And let's see. Yeah, it's not as easy to do a screen share in this other program. All right, I'll do a screen share in the Google thing. I'm going to turn off my video so it doesn't get all confused like it did last time. And do a screen share. All right, entire screen, sure. And there we go. Okay. Here is a library, and you're asking about pinning, so you can see my screen now, guys? Yeah? Corey? Can y'all hear me, see me?
Yep, you're all good.
Oh, okay. It was like crickets chirping. Okay, so here it is in my browser, and there's a lot here now. Like it seems like every time I look at this drop-down box next to a file, it's rearranged. That's not confusing or anything. There's a really quick get a link now, because it wasn't really, before, again, us power users, it totally made sense that you clicked on something, and when you click the ellipsis, you could see the URL there, and you could just grab the URL, you just copy the URL to your clipboard. But, again, think about my mom using SharePoint. So there's the get a link. So you could just grab the URL to something. But pin to the top is what she's asking about. So that's the pretty little thing where now you can take just any existing file, just whatever in this library that you want, and pin it to the top. So let's see, can you only pin one thing to the top? Ooh, you can pin multiple things to the top. That's kind of nice. So yeah, it took both of these and just went to the little ellipsis and pinned them to the top. A lot of this other stuff in here is pretty much the same. You can still get to the other stuff like workflows. And if I click get a link, that's going to bring up a whole other page. And that seems really complicated for just getting. See, I don't want to necessarily share it. I just want to grab the URL. But when you click get a link, it assumes that it assumes that you're going to need to do something with permissions, because I guess they had issues in the past, and this makes total sense, that people would send someone a link to something that they didn't have access to, right? Have y'all seen that happen? Everybody in the chat window, y'all nod your heads or something?
That happens all the time.
Yeah. So now when you click get a link, it's actually prompting you to do something with permissions. So now I can say, do I want them to be able to edit it when I send them a link? And then it's going to say they need to have an account in my domain to be able to do one of these two. And then a restricted link is only specific people can open the link. So they tried to make this all make more sense in here when you're giving someone permission to something. Yeah, let's see. And there's also pin to the top up there at the top, so like I could just click on something and pin to the top like that and not have to do the ellipsis like that. And then we've got, if I wanted to, so I have something selected, so I can get rid of the fact that I have something selected. I can see this being a confusion right here. See, when I've got something selected, I have all these things that I can do with it, but I don't have my views anymore, so I have to like clear my selection before I can do something with views. So that's going to take a little getting used to. I can quickly move something though, like if I want to move this to, and then it's just going to prompt me with other places that I go to in Office 365, like documents. I believe that's my OneDrive, so I can say I just want to move it to my OneDrive, or not. And again, get a link. All this stuff's pretty much the same. Version history. Again, so you have to get rid of your selection to be able to get to the views here. So then that's where I could go. Then if I go manage views, it's just going to take me to my site settings with all the familiar. Then you have to know to scroll to the bottom and go create a view. So that's a little awkward, but yeah. Any other questions about that, guys? There was a metadata thing that they demoed. Joelle, I think that you commented on that. Did you remember that the metadata thing? It was some kind of drag and drop metadata, and they demoed it, and I was looking down and I missed it.
Yeah, I don't remember. I haven't had a chance to mess with it, but I think the idea was that like it was almost like there was a view. Like if you create a view, you could like drag, like, and the view was like, the status equals updated or something. You could like drag a document or item into that other like grouping, and then it would update the metadata or something similar like that. That's kind of what that. I mean, like I said, it was quick. So
yeah, it was. Everything in that demo was just so fast. Yeah, very interesting. All right. I might try that if we have time to like kind of finagle with that and just see. But yeah, so you drag it into the view. That's interesting. So it makes it feel like you're dragging it into a folder, but you're really just putting metadata on it. Huh. Okay. So, and again, that also might be one of the things that's not in there yet, but we'll try in a little bit. I also wanted to show you guys, so are we ready to move on? Let's see. No other, let's see. How they emphasize one, oh yeah, we did that. Okay. I guess we don't have any other questions right now. If you drag a doc into a group by view, it inherits the main metadata promoted in the view. Oh, okay. Thanks, Dave. All right, I'm going to do that. Except I have to have a library that's got grouping in it. That's got some kind of metadata that it would be grouped by. So I'd actually have to go in here and have and put some metadata in my library. So that could take a minute. Let me see. I'm going to look at this. I can just quickly add a column right here. It's kind of in a different place than it was when it was in the ribbon. So I can go add a text column, and I'm just going to call it color, just something very random. And I'm just going to put a couple of different colors in here so we can, now, where's Datasheet View? All right. I don't know where Datasheet View is, but if I get confused and if I ever need to be able to quickly go back to Datasheet View or switch it back to my familiar look and feel, I do have the ability to flip back to the old library look. All right, so I don't know where Datasheet View is. That's really weird. Okay, yeah, it doesn't have it here. Okay, so I'm going to go, watch this, so I can go to my settings, which is way over here now in my little gear. Now, again, a lot of this stuff that they have rearranged, a lot of it doesn't apply, is not going to be confusing to end users because I think it's mostly going to be these power users that are going to need to go do these settings and things. So if I go to advanced settings.
Oh, Laura, that was a document library, so there is no Datasheet View. It wasn't a list.
Yeah, but document libraries can have Datasheet View. All right, here we go.
Oh,
see,
yeah, sure.
Display this list using the new or classic experience. So I can flip it back to classic experience. Yeah, hopefully the Datasheet View is not gone. Maybe I'm just dumb and I can't figure out where it is. So that's always, that could be the case. And the weird branding that this site has doesn't have like a little breadcrumb trail for me to get back to where I was. So I'm just messing with the URL here. All right. All right, so now look, see, now I flipped it back to where it is, but now I have to go go to the ribbon and edit this view so I can put the metadata. I don't know if it's worth all this because now I'm wasting too much time. All right, let's see how quick I can do this. I created one called color. See, I think I might have even been in a different library because I don't see color here. All right, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go over to my, I want to go over to the new page editing experience and show you guys that, all right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, you can see this is my About Me page, and I have my blog here. So I wrote this post. I was really bored at 4 a.m. this morning, and I wrote this post using the new page editing experience. So now if you go to your About Me page and you click just create a new blog post, that is the new page editing experience. So right now I'm just looking at the post, but since it's my post, of course I can share it, which means I can just send it in an email. I can get comments in Yammer. I can create a new post, I can edit my post, so I'll go create a new post and just kind of show you what that experience looks like. So look at this, isn't this smooth? Look at that. So I can go add an image. Let's see, maybe it's got some nice ones that I've already, I'll just use that, all right. Digital Workplace Conference was the one in Australia that I went to. Was in Melbourne. Carlos says, I'm not surprised that Microsoft would finally make a user-friendly branding product to compete with those on the market. Yes, yes. I totally agree. All right, so it says start writing. So this is cool stuff about my trip and the conference. And see, I can take it and format my text using one of these, and I can do just quick little, add a hyperlink, make it some bullet points and stuff like that. Then look at this little plus. Did y'all see that? So my little plus gives me the ability to add stuff. So this is kind of like web parts, right? So this is kind of another way to do. And now in the demo they did, y'all might have noticed, in the demo they did, it was it had a whole bunch more stuff. So it was more like a publishing page than just a blog post. So theirs had all different web parts and things in it, if I recall correctly. Again, it went by really fast. But I can go quickly insert something. So this uses the Office 365 video portal. So I actually have to have my URL from the Office 365 video portal. So I can go over to video. I only have a couple of videos in here. And just test videos. So here's one at the Royal Botanical Gardens in Sydney, and I can just copy that URL, ooh, and then go back over here and paste it, and close that, stop. All right. And so now it's just in my blog post, and then it says I can add a caption here. This is cool stuff. I'm not very creative. And then I can just keep adding web parts down the page. So I believe that, and I don't know if they're going to be called web parts still. It would make sense to me that they'd be called web parts. I can add a document. So these are going to be like some of the most, it's going to show me recent documents that I've been working on here. It's got my OneDrive files. These are just like some test files that I have in here. So it lets me embed, just quickly embed files right on the page, and then just keep going and adding information and typing text and adding things. So pretty simple, right? So I saved it, then I didn't publish it, right? So I got to go edit and publish it. And then that's going to show up in Delve and Delve is really just search, because they were talking about Delve this and Delve that, and I don't know how much people that are on-prem, I don't know how much you're familiar with what the heck Delve is, but Delve is really just a pretty search experience and a pretty search interface. Oh, Corey says the plus sign action is very similar to experience making a Squarespace site. Interesting. Yeah, it looks like Sway. So that makes sense if they would start making things look more like other Microsoft products. Of course, I don't have that many things in my Delve because it's my test site. All right, but then there's me, and then there's my blog post my post should show here and should show kind of when people are looking at my profile and reading about me and stuff like that. What else? I can't really demo the SharePoint app here on my Windows computer because it is only an stop sharing. It is only an iPad, iPhone app. But let's see, what else did they talked about on-prem? They talked about basically, a lot of the stuff they talked about with on-prem. Let me hold on, put my camera back on. There we go. Can you hear me and everything? Okay. Yeah. So a lot of the stuff that we talked about in on-prem was things that they announced before, just all the performance improvements that they had announced a few months ago, and how much better it's going to be behind the scenes, just from the server end. And yeah, it's just called SharePoint SharePoint app, makes sense. Oh, and another huge thing they announced is that the little waffle here, it's just going to say, instead of sites, it's going to say SharePoint.
That was one of the biggest, most exciting things of the entire presentation.
I know. True. Yeah.
Because it was so confusing.
Yeah. Very, very cool. So do y'all want to talk about Flow? I know I did a whole SharePoint Power Hour on Power Apps one time, so we can revisit that later. I could probably just do a whole other Power Hour today, but I mean a whole other Power Hour on Flow as well. But I just kind of wanted to point out that if you're on Office 365, I think that just anybody can go to MicrosoftFlow.com and go in here and log in using your Office 365 account. Oh, that's nice. I like that. So let me see. It is a preview product, so kind of, that shouldn't be too much of a surprise that you might have glitches every now and then. And probably the reason it's all confused is because I'm using this little interface that it's like a window into a web page. Anyway. All right, so here are just some ideas around Flow and what kind of some templates it gives you to be able to use. Again, they're very, very simple. It's not going to necessarily be the same type of thing you do right now in a SharePoint Designer. Again, just in my situation, my SharePoint Designer workflows are pretty complex. So this doesn't have anywhere near that level of complexity in it, like building complex approval processes and all these different conditions and all these different things that need to happen. It's pretty much, if this happens, do this and this. But yeah, let's see, what are some of you saying? Oh, so the app is rolling out. Oh, the waffle's rolling out today? That's pretty exciting. Yeah, so, and I don't know what you mean, Ann, by are they just going to push us over to 2016 one day? Is who going to push who over to 2016?
So for Office, I think she just means the Office 365, upgrading to the 2016 features. But I would imagine that as they make them feature complete, they're just going to roll them out, since they tend to just update Office 365 when they have things to update. They don't necessarily.
Yeah, it's more like things are going to go to Office 365 first.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to be there and be probably for, in production for a while, and then get pushed into a feature pack in on-prem. Does that answer your question? So it's not going to be the other way around. Let's see. They did that from 2013. Is she just talking about workflows? Or is she talking about...
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Now I'm confused too.
Yeah. So
and help us.
So, Anne, if you're talking about workflows, yeah, the 2010 workflows are still in SharePoint Designer 2013. But with this one, you're still going to be using SharePoint Designer workflows. But if you want to do these just for now, these more simple ones, you can use Flow. But eventually, I think Flow is going to get to the point where it could replace what we do with SharePoint Designer workflows, because they didn't create a new version of SharePoint Designer, hint, hint. So, yeah. That's the case. So let's see. Oh, she said the whole product went from 2010 to 2013 the next day. That's a great question, Anne. I'm not sure. You can always go look, like when you're in Office 365, you can go look in, they have a way that you can read, just kind of the release information, and just a list of stuff that got rolled out and things that are about to get rolled out, and dates and things like that. Let me see, where is that? That's going to be... I got all confused now in my browser because it took me to a completely different web page, and the reason I'm confused is just because of this little weird browser interface that I'm using. Let's see if that works. No. Yeah, it's just all confused. It won't take me back to where I was, and I don't have a way to, I don't have an address bar in here. Let's see, what are you asking? Yeah, so I think some of it's gradual, and what's interesting to me is going to be what kind of like all your pages and publishing pages and things and team sites, how that's going to translate to get moved over to the new thing. And is it just going to be for new site collections that you get some of this new stuff? I'm not positive. So yeah. Let's see. I'm trying to get it to go to my site. Go back to my. There we go. Maybe that'll work. All right. So let's go see. I mean, I could just go into admin and create a new site collection and just kind of see what happens and see what new stuff is in it. Oh, another thing that they mentioned, God, did it again. Another thing that they mentioned is just the site provisioning. Did y'all catch that? That it's going to be faster to be able to create sites now, and have like the ability to sort of categorize your sites. Let me open up I'm going to pull up my little blog post that I wrote and make sure I didn't miss any of the major points. Wonderlaura.com, and it's just going to be one of my most recent posts. Because there's just so much. Like they didn't even really get a chance to demo Power Apps. But again, one of the things about Power Apps that they announced is it's going to be integrated into the browser, and you're going to be able to go quickly create Power Apps from within a SharePoint list, or open up a Power App in the browser from within a SharePoint list. And so, Anne, you said, I love the new security stuff that's coming. Oh, the new, like all the compliance and all that, and that whole e-discovery concept. Yeah, that's really important, because that's just one of the things that people have worried about in the past is putting their stuff in the cloud, right? And we worked at a cloud company, and we got to hear that all the time about people and making sure that their stuff is secure and making sure that it's safe being in the cloud. So the fact that Microsoft is addressing all this, and they're making sure that you understand that it's all going to be okay. Yeah, I can't get it to go to the stupid SharePoint Admin Center. This is much more complicated than it should be. Oh, right. Yeah, anytime I click anything over here, it's like taking me somewhere else. What were you going to say, Corey?
Oh, I'm not even muted. Cool. One of the things I was going to say about the site creation is I was just reading a post by Ben Nolan about all the different features and stuff, and if you use PowerShell
and Slack too when you get a chance.
Sure. When you use PowerShell to create site templates, you can actually create site collections in like a second, which is, I mean, that's amazing. Just that much,
Yeah,
site collections are a pretty big thing.
Yeah, the question is when, though.
Well, yeah.
In the admin center, there's always I know that a really good, readily available place to get information about what's coming up in Office 365 is in the Office 365 admin app. Of course, I'm holding up my phone. I have a little app that lets me share my phone screen. I don't have it with me, though. I don't have the little cord with me. But it's an Office 365 admin app, and it has actually got a screen in there that's got update information. It's got a list of all the updates that are coming out. So that's just a quick place that you can go if you're an admin to be able to go see the list of what's being rolled out and when it's being rolled out. So let me see. Nothing looks different right here so far. Just creating a site collection. I doubt that anything's going to be different right now. Let me see. Go up. There we go. New. I'm just going to call it new and just see what happens. Let's see if there's anything new here, though, like as far as templates. No, nothing looks spectacularly new. I'm just going to create a team site and put me. Wow, y'all have a lot of comments. Cool. Let's see. I want to put my email address. I like the way it jumps around. That's a nice touch.
It made you magenta again too.
So what are y'all saying in there? Oh yeah, isn't that weird? It just.
Oh, we're talking about Canadians.
There we go. Oh, Canadians, of course. Let's see. Every time I type in a box, it shrinks the whole thing down. That's. All right, there we go. We're not saying y'all, but I say y'all. All right, so I just created a new site, and it's being spun up, a new site collection. So again, a site collection in an Office 365 group is going to be the same thing, and it's so, it's going to have its own email address, right? And they've kind of introduced stuff like that before, where you have like a site mailbox. So it'll be interesting how they kind of merge together those concepts and kind of how those worked and what the interface was compared to how it is in groups, So Carlos says it's not easy at the present time to be completely compliant in Office 365. Hopefully they included tools for the admin to pull for audits. Yeah, they've been adding different reporting tools in there as well lately. Let me see, what are some other things? I've got like 3 minutes left. Some other things that I wrote in my blog post.
Dave was also asking about the SharePoint framework.
Oh yeah, for the devs. For the new page type that we just demoed, where you can add web parts in a whole different way, there's the new page framework. So let's see. I could have sworn I put a link to that in my blog post. Maybe not. Oh yeah, SharePoint framework and open and connected platforms. So it is a new. I'm going to copy the shortcut and put it over here in the chat window. It's a new framework for devs having to do with that new page type, and I don't even know what framework means. I'm not a dev, but there's definitely been some controversy among devs about what their opinions about the fact that Microsoft's changed the development platform several times. So let's see if I can go to this site collection now. And I doubt it's going to look any different. Oh, and it takes me to my... No, yeah, it doesn't look any different, so I'm not going to worry about that right now since I've only got 1 minute left. So yeah, so theoretically, when you start creating new... I'm going to put my background back where it was. As you start creating new site collections, they should get the new look and feel. Y'all don't forget to go to that Collab 365 event that's going on. It's been going on yesterday and today and tomorrow. It's live 24 hours a day. Collab 365. Just Google it and hashtag Collab 365. I'm doing a presentation. Mine is tomorrow. I think it's 2 p.m. Central. It's about an approval process. That thing that you and I did, Corey. And it's fun because I pre-recorded it, and that way when it's airing tomorrow, I can just go in the chat window and just kind of chat with everybody and answer questions and things just as it's going, because I'm just watching it. I can just kick back and relax. And so y'all come, I encourage you to come to that tomorrow and hang out. Oh, Anne's there now. She's multitasking. But yeah, I recommend you guys go to that. That's a great question. Sherm, do we have a lot of devs on the chat? That's a great. I'm not sure about that. Actually, I have my little summary. Like I have, I asked you guys all some questions that you filled out when you first, requested to join Power Hour chats in Slack. And the question, what is your role in SharePoint? 47% of you said, I'm the everything SharePoint person at work. And then the next big percentage was power user / site manager, was like 25%. So not a huge percentage of devs, but let's see, programmer, 6 people were programmers, so that's like 7%. That answers your question. All right, so any last thoughts, you guys, or anything that I missed? I know I hardly even delved into Power Apps and Flows, but that's a whole other topic into itself, right? Yeah.
There's one more question. He was just asking if your session is based on SharePoint Designer.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all good old school, and it's stuff that can be done in SharePoint Designer in 2010, 2013, Office 365. It's just a new concept in how you can structure a nice standard approval process that can be used for many different types of request forms easily. And Corey and I built that for a customer, and it was really fun, and I think they liked it.
We don't know.
Hopefully they liked it, yeah, because we don't work there anymore. All right, well, I will let you guys go. Thanks, everybody, for coming. We'll see you next week. Maybe we'll do Power Apps or Flows or one of those next week. I'm not sure off the top of my head. We'll figure it out. I've got a whole big list of ideas and topics, so we'll definitely have something. You guys install the Slack app and go in there, and you can keep asking questions after I hang up, or you can throw out ideas and stuff in there. Bye. Over and out.
Bye, guys.
Bye.